back at Wessex Resins today, one of my favourite technical places. We've been here before, and last time we talked about the generalities of using epoxy safely and minimising waste and all that good stuff. Well, today Dave, who is here again, thank goodness, is going to show me how to use it in practice. We're going to make something that I really need for my boat.
A battery box.
A battery box!
I suspect your battery will be roughly this kind of size. It's roughly the size of a high amperage leisure battery.
Looks like 100 amp hours to me, or 95, something like that.
I think you're absolutely right.
That's exactly what it is. Right. I know them well.
So a really good start for this is to just get some dimensions off your existing battery, or get some off the manufacturer's data sheet. Now, my idea is to make the base and then make sure that the battery fits within that. So we've got a reasonable amount of clearance around the edge. We want about 10 mil. I think also you've got to consider what you're going to make this from, and of course you could use hardwood ply, but I chose to use some really good grade marine ply. It's actually Robin's Elite marine ply, so it's really good and sturdy.
Yeah.
6 mil. So again, 6 mil. Why would you use 6 mil? So my thinking was that by using 6 mil, you could actually double that up to become 12 mil, but you'd allow the benefit of a lap joint all around the edge, so that your sides actually fit inside that lap joint.
I see.
Like that. So you've got a double-sided joint, which is very robust.
Yeah.
If we then add fillets to this as well,
Yeah.
that makes it even stronger. You know, you
Okay.
can imagine the inertia of your 100 amp hour battery
yeah.
off a wave is quite substantial.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. This just fits together like this, with the sides, with a lap joint as well, like so. And then that also allows us to fit a nice lid onto here that settles down into that gap.
Yeah.
In fact, the lid is just the same
As the base?
as the base, but it just allows 6 mil around the edge to secure itself in the top of the box.
Yeah. Well, the practicalities of it are that the thing's got to go into a boat, not a square box. And my boat actually needs a battery box, and it needs to go into where the hole's going like that. Unfortunately, Dave has prepared a boat earlier, and here it is.
So, first thing is I'm going to use some of the patterns that I made from the actual battery and the base of the battery box to give me an idea where it's going to locate.
Okay.
Now, of
So
course,
that's the right size for the base of a battery.
It's the base of the box itself.
Okay.
So I've allowed the dimensions of the battery as well.
Yes.
But of course, you know, you would say, first thing, how on earth do you level this up? Well, if the boat's in the water, maybe it's going to be relatively level. You could use a spirit level. But honestly, you'll do all of those things and it will look odd. And the best thing is to use your eyes. You know?
Mark one eyeball.
Yeah, mark one eyeball. It's always handy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just line this up with this tiny little prop here, which I think is around about where the battery box will want to go. And I'm going to hold it there, and then I'm going to tack it gently with a hot melt glue gun. Well, it's kind of like so handy because you just get a really temporary fix for a pattern such as this. I'll just hold that for a little minute.
Yeah.
And then I can make the skeleton pattern for the shaped bulkhead.
Okay.
Now I could make that out of cardboard or...
Well, that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
That would have been my natural reaction.
It's actually so accurate to use, say if you were to use cardboard, just to use strips of cardboard hot melted together. Because it then gives you such an accurate profile of the edge there. So you can see now that's reasonably secure. Yeah. So what I can do now, I just use like strips of hardboard because I can just snap those.
Yeah.
And I can just tack that together. I've used this method for so long that I kind of trust in it. And that will really accurately follow this curvature here.
Yeah, and you go one side, so you keep them in line.
Exactly.
It's obvious, really, isn't it? But
exactly.
Otherwise, it's going to wander off halfway to Christmas.
It's actually very hot, this, so you've got to be careful on your fingers. But it'll give such an accurate copy of the hull. Just finally, but by the time we've bolted and glued our battery box to this bulkhead, that's a really sound and secure fixing to then be supported by this little sub bulkhead.
Yes.
Which, of course, what we can do is we can fillet that in once it's cut out of plywood.
Yeah.
If it's in a glass fibre boat, we can tab it in with glass fibre tape, so it's really strong and secure, and then fillet it in underneath the battery box.
Okay.
So this should be set. And I've got my pattern.
Well, there it is.
Yeah. So you can see just how nicely that follows the curvature of the hull.
Yeah.
We've got the level for the battery box itself and an edge that we can finish off. So we can now cut that in, say, 12mm plywood, and it'll be very accurate to fix that in. And of course all of this comes out nicely again because the hot melt glue is strong but only kind of temporary. From our drawings of our battery, mark out all our wood and cut it accurately. You can do that at home with a handsaw if you're good at measuring and cutting, not the other way round.
Absolutely. Yeah, measure 3 times, cut once.
And so you can assemble this kit of parts, which gives you all of the assembled parts for the battery box.
Okay.
So this is the base of the battery box, Tom. And what we'll do next is bond these two 6mm ply pieces together to give us our 12mm base and our lap joint around the side, so that we end up with finished parts that look like this. Yeah. Yeah. And that will be very, very strong and robust.
Yes, it will.
Yeah. And we're going to do that with our West System 105-205, but mixed with microfibres, 403 microfibres, because that's the perfect adhesive mix for bonding wood together.
I'm going to prime this pump first, because this is a new...
Definitely worth priming.
So that we get an accurate measure. Oh, I can feel something happening. There it is. Yeah, I can see it. Right, so now we have... You want 2 pumps of each?
We'll put 2 pumps of each in. Just got to get that tiny little dribble out the top.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So 2 now.
Yeah, 2.
1, 2.
And then always tipping that pot onto the side. You know, you've done this before.
I have.
You know, that's
we did it here.
really good policy.
We mix it really well.
Absolutely. 2 minutes is ideal.
Goodness, you're a hard man, aren't you?
So once you've done that, Tom,
what
we're going to do now is make sure our plywood's clean and free from dust, and we're going to 2-step bond these 2 pieces. That's to say that we apply the resin hardener mix first as a primer
with a brush.
And then we leave that to soak in for about 3/4 of an hour, ideally, and then we apply the adhesive mix, and that ensures the best practice bond.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's really robust.
Yeah.
And it's well worth doing.
Yeah, because the adhesive bit is gonna bond to the bit that's going in.
The initial primer layer is anchoring itself into the wood fibre.
This is ready to go.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's your brush. Takes a bit of working in, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Interesting, isn't it?
The beauty of this is you can work on your workbench at home in your garage, assembling this, ready to take down to the boat. And it's kind of like a nice winter project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wanted it on thin. Are you satisfied
Yes,
with this?
that's perfect. The reason that you want it on thin is that we don't want too much to squeeze out when we weight it together. That's perfect. Nice and even as well.
Yep.
Looks like you've done this before.
Well, I've done an awful lot of varnishing in my time.
Bear in mind, we want to just try and leave a 12mm gap if you can around the edge. It's not super
around
important.
the edge?
Yeah,
Okay,
just around the
yeah,
edge.
yeah,
Not
alright.
super important, but because we can clean that up afterwards.
There we are.
Brilliant.
So what now? We leave them for a while, do we?
We'll leave these for 45 minutes.
Okay.
So your next step, Tom,
Yep.
is to make up your adhesive mix to actually bond these two together.
Okay.
And that adhesive mix will consist of the same mixed epoxy that we've used for the coating,
Right.
or the priming in effect, but we use this filler, which is 403 microfibers.
Okay.
Now this is pulped cotton, and that absorbs all the epoxy, rather like a sponge absorbs water, and it bulks it up, and it's the best filler to use for wood joints, for scarf joints, for laminated joints like this, because it's easy to mix. And I think you need 2 pumps of resin and 2 pumps of hardener to mix enough.
We don't want to be mean, do we?
No.
Especially as we're down your place.
So I'll just open this up for you. So
Okay.
this is a nice powder filler.
Yep.
It doesn't fly away like some of the other much lighter fillers, and it bulks the resin up. And I think probably what we want here is a kind of mayonnaise-y consistency.
Lovely.
And I suspect if you mix up like a heaped scoop, something like that,
Yep.
to and add that to the epoxy, mix it well, I think that will arrive at just the right consistency.
That looks about right, doesn't it?
That's it, yeah.
So we'll shake that in. Pop that back in there and put it well
Should
out
I-
of the way.
Put the lid back on that.
Now we'll see about mixing this in now.
It should mix in very nicely, and you can mix it in by chopping the stick around. Yeah?
Yep. Like that.
Yeah. That looks good.
Let's see how it looks on the stick now.
Yeah. That's much better, isn't it?
Well, it's
Much
hanging
better.
onto the stick, isn't
Yeah,
it?
much,
So you're
much
happy
better.
with that?
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
So
Right.
now you just need to blob that on the work.
Straight on.
Yeah, straight on. And that'll extend the working time. The quicker you can get that out of the pot,
Yeah.
the more we have working time with it. Because it's not in such a thick film. It's in
Yes.
thin film on the work. Even to the extent of just spreading that out a little bit. Of course, we have a couple of plastic spreaders that we do. This is just a flat spreader,
Yeah.
but this spreader is notched. So this is the perfect thing. There are 3 different
Oh, I see, yeah.
teeth
Oh, God,
size you can see.
Highly sophisticated.
You see on
isn't it?
that?
Yeah. Which one do you reckon?
Well, I reckon the middle size, don't you? I mean that.
Well, that one's a bit hefty, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and the beauty of this is it will distribute
Alright.
the glue evenly, but there's another side benefit. Once you've got this distributed,
Yeah.
if you just drag the notches that way, as we press this down, the air will sweep out of the sides. A lot easier. It's a little bit of science.
Sorry if I'm a bit slow with this.
No,
but-
don't worry. It's like nice to be methodical. That's good. That's just about the right amount, just there, isn't it?
Yeah, we
Just about enough.
We didn't waste any, did
No, no. So now we can just locate that by eye. Looks good, doesn't it? I think what we ought to do next, before we clean it up,
Yeah.
is just weight it down, because that will squeeze
yes.
any
All right.
excess
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
And it's my granddad's old Stanley plane. So
Good.
if we just put
Have
that...
we got the blade wound down
I
there?
think so.
Good.
So that will gradually weight that down. Because that mix is nice and liquid,
Yeah.
it will gradually press the
I
excess
see.
epoxy out. But to help us, what you can do is clean up around the edge. You know, in the last video where we used the chisel point, that's brilliant for cleaning up.
Yeah, that'll be nice, won't it? So we'll start here.
That's superb.
Lovely.
Yeah.
We got it all.
Yeah.
Because presumably the tidier we can get this, the better will be the ultimate joint, or the less work we have to do against the hard epoxy.
Really, epoxy is so difficult to sand. We don't formulate it so that it's easy to sand. We formulate it to be really tough and strong.
Yep.
So the more you can clean up whilst it's liquid, the better it is for you. It saves you work. So the next step, Tom, now we've got these panels bonded together, is to just do a bit of clean up. You know, and it's pretty hard and rigid, so it won't allow us a good accurate fit.
No.
So we've got to plane that off. You have a really good grip on it.
Well, we're making progress.
Yeah.
I think that's enough there.
I think that's
We'll settle
fine,
for
isn't
that.
it?
Really, you need one of these, don't you? I think I might get myself one of these for Christmas.
I'd go even one better than that and get a little edge plane.
Oh, now.
Because with that, you see, you can take off that little edge there. Should I show you?
Let's have a look.
So, you know, if you weren't really observing all the cleaning up whilst the epoxy's still liquid, it's still machinable. If you didn't have these little planes, you could use a chisel. You could use some sandpaper. So that was 3 pumps of resin and 3 pumps of hardener to coat this, Tom. So the objective of this is to coat each pre-assembled panel.
Right. Do we coat the whole thing or just the...
No, I just coat this bit because
of course we want glue to go
We want glue to go on this, and we're going to sand this with some grit paper before we bond it together. But the benefit here is that as we assemble it, it's so much easier to have coated the panels before you assemble it, because getting a paintbrush and the epoxy in there is really difficult. And the beauty of that is, because all of these panels are horizontal or on a flat surface, you can get that on nice and thick.
You can. Amazing, isn't it?
It really fills that grain as well, doesn't it?
It runs against the grain, this, to me, having learned how to paint.
That's it.
Sloshing it on like this seems a little bit unkind, but it's what we want, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I would do is just, that's it, clean your brush off on the edge of the pot really severely, and then just brush in brush strokes and keep taking the epoxy off, and that will have an effect of levelling it out and getting just about the right thickness on there. Each time you brush, put it back in the pot. That's it. Brilliant. You see how it's levelling?
Yeah.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Are we going to put another coat on this in due course?
Yeah, we will, but we've got to wait for this to tack off.
Sure. Yeah.
Probably around about an hour and a half.
I'm knocking that off there because I don't want to be having to sand it. Is that right?
That's better. That's much better. Yeah, better to be clean whilst it's all liquid. But of course, after your 2 coats, this is one that's been finished with the 2 coats on.
Yeah, let's have a look.
You're looking for this kind of gloss finish that you've got here.
Yeah. I notice it's got little sort of tiny little bubbles appearing.
Yes.
What's that about?
Some of that is because I did it in my workshop, which is quite dusty.
Okay, but it doesn't really matter because it's only a battery box,
isn't it? It's got to be robust, sound and resistant to water or battery acid. Well, we've got some of this assembled now, Tom.
Right.
So the next step is to clean the surface here. And the reason for that is because we've tried to keep this simple, just using the standard 105 resin and the 205 hardener. One of the byproducts of the cure is a slightly waxy, greasy film that occurs on the surface.
Can that be different with a different
mixture? Now that's a really good point. So if you use the 207 special coating hardener, there's absolutely zero blush. What we're going to do is clean the blush away, but we're also going to key these joints ready for a fillet.
By the blush, you mean this sort of waxy thing?
Yeah, it's just a film. Yeah, you can't actually
you can't see it at all. It's amazing, but it's there.
But what it will do is if you try and sand it, it will clog the sandpaper.
Oh yes,
you see.
Yeah.
So our cleaning solution will remove that, but also any household surface cleaner that, particularly if it has ammonia in it, will clean this blush off. And it's a simple case of just wetting out a nice dry white paper towel and making sure that you remove it all.
Is the blue paper I have in my workshop
Well,
just as good?
funny enough,
For this?
funny enough, the blue has a dye in it,
Yeah.
which when you get down to the nitty gritty
Yeah.
of producing a really exquisite finish,
Right.
it can affect the finish.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's
How's
a
it
lot
feel?
better, a lot better.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a lot better. Let's just maybe dry
Yeah. okay.
that joint. I always like to wear these engineer's gloves when you're sanding things, because then
Well, it'll eat these, won't it? Any proper
it will.
sandpaper.
So I'd just look at sanding into that joint there,
Yeah.
like that.
Could we have done this before we assembled it?
Well,
Save shoving your hands into that hole.
that's an absolute point, because here's one I prepared earlier with the edge sanded. So of course with this, and it's all been washed, ready to be sanded, we could have sanded all three edges perfectly. So again, it's assembling that kit of parts
Yeah,
that
it's
are ready
just
to go.
thinking about everything, isn't
It
it? Because
is.
that would be so much easier.
is.
And you'd do a better job too.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So this is going to be really robust. So we've already made sure of that with the way we've jointed everything. We've got
Yep.
a double-sided lap joint here.
Yep.
This will be really strong on its own.
Yep.
It's glued together with the same mix that we're going to use to fillet this. And that mix would involve the 406 filler. The reason for that, over and above the 403 that we've used to bond this 2.6mm pliers together, is that this is smoother when we come to fillet it. So it creates a really nice, smooth, aesthetically pleasing fillet.
Yep.
Now that fillet will run all the way around this joint, and that will provide like a secondary amount of reinforcement for the integrity of the battery box. The viscosity we want for the fillet is going to be like peanut butter thick, you know,
Right.
but it'll look like Vaseline thick. It'll be quite thick, so it'll be nice and smooth to spread into this joint.
Okay.
The way the box is made now gives you free access to these, so we can get these done nice
Get them
and
all done at
easily,
once, yeah.
and then just assemble the rest of it around that. And,
Right.
and maybe struggle with the other fillet.
What do you reckon? 2 or 3?
I think 2 pumps of resin and 2 pumps of hardener.
Yeah, that's nicely
We'll
primed.
always we'll do this. I think probably to get this to peanut butter, which is what you want, you need 2 scoops of the silica. Just be careful how you tip it in, because it does fly out a little bit. So you use your mixing stick on edge like that and just chop it in.
Put it all in there.
And you can see gradually, that's gradually blending in. Bear in mind, you've got about 15 minutes of working time,
Okay.
so that's quite reasonable time.
Well, that should be
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. So I just start from the middle and work out.
That's
up.
what I would
Yeah,
be naturally
yeah.
inclined
it
to
would,
do.
wouldn't it? Yeah.
I'm making sure it gets in there to
Yeah.
start with. Is that right?
Sometimes a brilliant way of doing that is to use a cake icing bag to squeeze it in.
There's a bit of a knack to this, isn't there? I
It
can see.
is. There's a little bit of technique. It's starting to look good. Look at that. I mean, that's really nice.
Is that right?
You know, that's a really nicely executed fillet joint.
Looks all right,
Yeah,
doesn't
it
it?
does, nice and clean,
I'll
nice
go up
consistent
now.
radius. So just carry on, yeah. Neat, eh?
Good enough for the likes of
Oh
us?
yeah, absolutely. You know, that
Okay.
corner's nice and neat, and all these radiuses are nice and consistent.
Yep.
So they'll all feed the load in a similar way. So we've nearly got our battery box assembled. We've only
Yep.
got that final panel to go on, which closes it up. Yeah. So we're going
This
to.
is the side, isn't it? The side panel.
This is the final side. So you can
Okay.
see it's all pre-coated.
Yeah, you've done your rubbing down.
And we've sanded the edges to take a fillet, so
Yep.
that's all abraded, all nice and white, free of dust. That's ready now to bond down to that.
Right.
And we'll just secure it with some masking tape. 2 squares of
I'm getting
each.
the idea.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've got that mix and it looks really, that looks perfect. Could I just show you, just briefly?
I wish you would.
Yeah?
Yeah. Ah.
Now we'll have quite a bit of squeeze out here, but we can clean that up once it's together. And the same here.
Oh, so you'll leave it like that?
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it like that and joint it. Then all the squeeze out we'll just clean up.
Yeah.
Yep. So this edge here, this is like that violin bow, kind of like where you're cleaning the mixing stick off as you're applying it.
No, I
do you want to
see.
do that other?
Yeah. Let's do that.
You should have enough just to do that.
Oh, I'm sure we have. No.
That's it, done, eh?
Yeah.
We might want to position this and bond it, but then we might want to move on swiftly with another operation on here, maybe coating the outside of the box.
Yeah.
So that would mean that we're going to have to wait for this bonded panel.
It's wait, isn't it?
Yeah, more or less, overnight, 8 hours before we can move on.
Well, is there any way around that?
Well, there is, and it's a little bit of a top tip, and it's to use our 5-minute epoxy, to just put some little tacks in all 4 corners that actually will cure in under 10 minutes. So we might see this bond itself within 5 to 10 minutes.
And it won't upset the rest of it?
It won't upset the rest of it. Everything we have is compatible with other products, so long as it's mixed together first.
Really?
So I think if we mix some of this up, and we'll do that on the top of a paper cup,
Right.
I think this will give us a bit of an accelerated work session.
Well, I'm all for that. Yeah.
The 2 containers, are resin and hardener.
Yeah.
So the caps just come off like that, and you've got a little spout. It's 50-50. So what I tend to do, because it looks good in a demonstration, is just do it like that.
Well, I think that's a good idea.
So you get like a 50-50. And of course we need a mixing stick for that. So now if we put a spot there, spot there, spot there, spot there, it's a little bit runny. That's it. So now, if we just position this where it's supposed to be, and any excess,
Shove it in there.
yeah, just shove it in. It just helps the joint. So what we can do, Tom, is just make sure that that's reasonably square. Make sure that's square there, and then we can just use a bit of sticky tape just to secure it up. What's happening now is that the 5-minute adhesive is taking hold and it's bonding it together, so we can move on to the next step quite quickly. So we're nearly there, I think. So we've got our box assembled. We've just got to finish off a little bit of filleting, which we've already covered.
Yeah.
But the most important thing, and really the reason for making this in 2 layers of 6mm, is to provide a nice lid that won't move around.
I see. Well, we've got a lovely rebate in there, haven't we, to drop it into?
So it just sit in perfectly.
Yeah.
The way I've figured out to make this is to drop the inner part of the lid in like that.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then mark out on the lid where the centre is.
Lovely.
You can mark out the centre of 2 holes. So let's just scribe off a level line through that, and we can guess that. We want a hole.
Well, we're going to have a couple of holes in it.
Yeah, and we want a hole there. So what we're going to do is drill through this and secure the 2 together with self-tappers.
I see. When this is in place on the top,
Dry
with
fit.
that in there.
Yeah, dry fit. So first thing is I'm going to drill 2 holes with a slightly bigger diameter to take my self-tapper. Then I can simply position that over so it's nice and true on top of the box. Put a smaller bit in, then just drill through again. Simply pop a couple of self-tappers in, and that should line the lid up. And then just allow me to lift that out, and now that's perfectly lined up. So we can take this apart again. Coat both sides like we did.
Yes.
Just, two-step bond.
Yeah. Give it half an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Make up an adhesive mix with the 403.
Yeah.
And bring the two together and screw them back together, weight them down, and now we've got a perfectly fitting lid. This is the finished lid for the box, which I've got to clean up, obviously, but what I've used here is our grey pigment.
So that's not paint?
No, it isn't. It's epoxy. It's the same Wessex 105-205, but mixed with grey pigment.
Do you just drop a bit into the mix?
Yeah, we have a percentage mix, and it's generally like 5% of the weight, but really your rough guide is for every pump you want the size of a pea of pigment to go in. Brush it on, and of course because this is nice and horizontal it levels out, but you can see that fits nicely.
That looks really, it's a nice colour.
On our box. The two exits are for your wires, but of course you could cut exits in the side.
Wherever's convenient.
Exactly. So of course the rest of the box, once finished, will be positioned in the hull where we took the pattern off earlier on. There'll be a small sub bulkhead which supports the bottom of the battery box. Yeah,
using the template that we started to make.
Exactly. Cut out of plywood, and the battery box itself will be secured with bolts and adhesive against that bulkhead. So this will be a very, very robust and strong positioning of something quite heavy.
I think it's great, and I'm very grateful to you. I've got one question. We've had all these used pots with old glue and stuff in them, and you haven't been throwing them away, have you?
No.
You've been putting them all on the sideboard over there. What are you going to do with them?
Well, it's always in my mind. All of this plastic is made from recycled plastic. The mixing sticks, the pots, they're all made from recycled plastic.
Good
but
start.
I have a policy of never throwing any of these away, and I reuse them. So you can see here the mixing stick, you can just snap off the waste epoxy. That will, when that's fully cured, that will come away. The mixing pots, what you do with the mixing pot is you roll the pot like this, and gradually you'll find that the cured epoxy at the sides actually releases away. Simply releasing it away because the epoxy won't stick to the plastic. And now your mixing pot is ready to use again.
Brilliant.
And again.
Brilliant.
And again.
I always come in here wondering what I'm going to learn, but I always learn about 10 times more than I expected. It's a wonderful world you've got here, you know, Dave.
Yeah. It's a dream job, actually.
Is it?
It really is, you know. And having you here and doing this, it's a real privilege for me. So
well, I don't know about that. It's good. So it works for everybody, and I hope everybody else has enjoyed it as well.